This is Chris, the Idaho Painter, here on Home Improvement How-Tos. Today I got Journeyman John with me, and we're here painting some cabinets. We're inside of a laundry room at a customer's house painting cabinets, and we do get a lot of questions. Our process on painting cabinets, from the prep process to how we go about spraying them, the products we use, and the tools we use. So in this video, we're going to go over a little bit about that and hopefully answer some of the questions. And if you can see in the background here, this is just kind of a small laundry room, and we're working on just a section of the cabinets here that have got some damage on them. Here's some of the doors right here, and we're going to be spraying these cabinets. And part of the prep process, when we show up to the job and we're going to begin painting cabinets, John, I think we start off by beginning to remove doors, numbering doors, and then we begin cleaning the doors. What do we typically clean the doors with?
So depending on the job, depending on what we're doing, we will either clean the doors with Dawn dish soap, like if we're going from an oak cabinet to a pigmented lacquer, or in this case where we're just doing a couple of panels and it's previously done with a pigmented lacquer, we'll use a denatured alcohol because it dries a lot faster than the Dawn dish soap will, and allows you to kind of keep the process moving.
And I know a lot of people ask us, do we sand prior to doing any type of painting? And do we actually sand?
So the thing about sanding is yes, there is going to need to be some scuff sanding, but it's very important where you do it in the process. Because if you sand before you've cleaned your doors, all you're going to do is be pushing any contaminants that are on that door down into the previous lacquer or into the previous coating or into the grain of the wood. It's very important you want to clean them, and then we'll go through and we'll scuff them up real quick. But usually, like the denatured alcohol that we're working on here, that helps soften up the lacquer, and then we know what product we're going over, and so that kind of helps us know what the effects are going to be when we apply the new top coat over the top, so that it will bond well.
And I know, like I've previous years, way back, sanded, and just by sanding you are creating a lot of dust, and it's really hard to get rid of all that dust. And when you go and you begin painting, you're going to get some of that dust coming out of cracks and edges and stuff like that, and it's just going to affect the smoothness of your finish. So if you can go do it without sanding, using even deglossers or cleaners or primers without sanding, it's, to me, it's better to not have to sand. And then I just don't like sanding, and I don't like reading all the dust. So there are two scenarios. We have cabinets we deal with, and they are lacquered cabinets and painted cabinets. And painted cabinets being, cabinets with either latex paint or oil-based paints. Do we typically prime our cabinets when we paint them?
Typically, we do prime our cabinets. In fact, one of the issues we're dealing with on this specific job is we're dealing with a bunch of water damage from cabinets that hadn't been primed previously, and now where normally it would hold up to the water damage, it's kind of peeling and flaking off because there's just no flexibility there. If we're painting typically we'll do oak cabinets and people want them white or some color, yes, we're going to go over that with a primer prior to applying a top coat.
So we typically always prime our cabinets, and if they're latex paint or oil-based paints or lacquer, what do we prime them with? Do we prime them with the same stuff every time?
We do. So typically we are going to be priming them with a product called Primer Surfacer. The thing you need to understand is no matter what lacquer system you're using, it is a system, and you need to be using the correct primer for the correct top coat so that you don't have bonding issues and end up with a big mess on your hands.
So we're going to start our process out. We're going to remove all of our doors, door fronts. We are going to label them. It's very critical to label them, and we typically, in where the hinge goes, the hinge will come out, and we'll put label markings, the door going up, what direction is facing up, and then where that door goes. We'll just do like a number system. It's absolutely critical to label. So we'll get them all labeled, pulled off, wash them with Dawn dish soap, get them all clean, get any contaminants off. Do it if we scuff them, if we need to scuff them. Then we begin the priming process, and we prime them. And we have a process of how we go about painting them. It's a really cool process where we just use cup hooks, hang the doors, and we spin them, and painting them spinning. This is just 3 doors right here. We're just doing the faces of them. We're going to set them down, and pinning them that way. And this is, if we were doing this whole thing, we would have our rack system where we spin them and paint them. We do have videos showing you exactly how to do that.
Absolutely.
So now the process priming, we typically do 2 coats of primer.
We do 2 coats of primer, especially if we're going from a stained look to a painted or a pigmented look, because that's just going to give you extra coverage, and then you're just going to make sure you've got a nice good bite to your surface.
And then after they're primed, we're going to begin with lacquers. We always use lacquers, I would say pretty much always now. There might be some cases here and there, some rare cases where we wouldn't, but we're always using lacquers, much more durable, chemical resistant, and the lacquers we use just give an awesome look to the finish. And then we spray how many coats of top coat after that?
And then it's 2 top coats over the top of that. So that gives us that nice thick look. We're using a high build lacquer, and typically after 2 priming coats, 2 top coats, we've got a beautiful looking door and beautiful set of boxes.
And what products are we using for the top coat?
It's called their Pre-Cat High Build Lacquer, and it's to us it's one of the best lacquer products out there. And the benefit of lacquer over paint is that you're going to have an immediate dry time. So those 2 prime coats and those 2 top coats we will usually achieve within a day, because it's you spray and 15 minutes later it's ready to sand if you need to sand it, or apply your next coat.
So I know we get a lot of questions on an average sized kitchen. How long does it take us to do it from start to finish, from the time we walk in to the time we walk out and hand the customer their bill?
So typically we schedule a kitchen for about 2 days. Usually within that first day we can do all of the masking, all of the prep work, and typically I can have the prime coats and the top coats all sprayed, and then we'll leave the doors to hang overnight on we've kind of got a rack and hanging system that we have. And then the next day we would go in, reinstall everything. We can clean anything up. If there's any touch-ups or any refinish work that we need to do, we'll do that, and we'll be able to get out of there.
I know you can see just a little bit of the background, some of the masking that we've done right here. I'll eventually grab the camera and show you more of the masking. And there's all this masking right here just for 3 cabinets. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, isn't that overkill, or isn't that just taking you way too long to do all that masking? What do you have to say about that?
Wouldn't it be faster just to brush it?
Yes.
We get a lot of comments like that, and yeah, in this room we could probably get away with about 1/3 the amount of masking, but for us, we've got a lot of practice with masking. It really is only about 10-15 more minutes of masking, and to help save yourself from some liability in some of those things, especially when you're spraying a product, definitely well worth the time spent to just make sure everything's sealed up. Once you get a good system and a good process down, it really does fly pretty fast.
Yeah, this masking in here, once you learn how to mask fast, the amount of masking that's in here is very minimal. The cost is very low. The time spent masking is really, maybe it looks like it took us, like a half a day to do, but it really didn't. So
yeah, you're talking $10 worth of masking materials, and you're talking it took maybe one guy an hour total to mask everything in this room. And that's nothing right there to make sure that you can spray the product and it's going to level out and it's going to look like it came from the factory. And that's really, when we're doing repaints like this for cabinets or refinishes, they're one of the more difficult things to do, because you're trying to apply a factory finish on the inside of somebody's home with a whole lot more variables than they have at the factory where they're making these cabinets in the boxes.
yeah. So here's one of the doors right here, and you're going to see why this one we just got it, we began prepping it. So why have we spot primed? That's primer right here, the white primer. Why did we spot prime that there, John?
So like we said, this place we're doing some, they're previously done with a pigmented lacquer. There's some water damage. I know what the product is, and so I know the top coat I'm going to be applying over it is going to bond well to the product that's already on the door. So I don't need to go through and put a primer surfacer over all of it. All I need to do is do my prep work to sand down anywhere where there was the water damage, and then we're applying just an aerosol can of bonding primer that I know works with our top coat in the spots that it needs it.
Yep, and then after that, we're gonna be, they've got the spot priming, the pigmented lacquer is gonna go over the top of that, and if you can see, there's kind of some brown coloring in here, and that would be glaze. So we're gonna be putting the pigmented lacquer, we're gonna be glazing it, and then trying to achieve a certain look.
This is a color, the color of the doors for this green is a match off of Benjamin Moore's Providence Olive. The glaze we're going to be putting on, it's kind of a custom glaze called Plymouth Brown that we had matched to the existing doors. And then we'll be putting a top coat over that that's a clear.
So you, once you put the glaze on, you have to clear coat it.
Yeah, you do need to clear coat it because that glaze is just sitting on top and can be re-wetted basically any other time it comes in contact with an oil type of product or substance. So that clear coat over the top will become a chemical resistant clear coat.
So now we'll just talk about quickly what we paint cabinets with. We have an HVLP gun right here. This is a PPS cup system right here. We spray our cabinets now with an HVLP sprayer. For a lot of years, for the beginning of my career, the first 10 years of my career, I used an airless sprayer with latex paints to paint cabinets, achieved really good results, but we eventually figured and determined after using the HVLP system and lacquers, we get way better results, an automobile-like finish on our cabinets, and it's just far superior to latex paints, plus it's more resistance to scrubbing chemicals and stuff like that. So the HVLP system, which is high volume, low pressure system, do you have anything to say about that, John? Any tips or tricks?
We do get a lot of questions like, well, can't I do that with an airless? And absolutely, you could do it with an airless. A couple of things though, you're going to use a lot more product, you're going to be dealing with a lot more overspray, and your finish arguably may or may not be quite as smooth or clean as you can achieve with an HVLP. Part of the benefit of this HVLP system is you can adjust your fan pattern to exactly what you want it to be, and it allows you to have less overspray and a higher transfer efficiency.
One of the benefits too, like John said, you can adjust your spray pattern on an HVLP system. You can dial down your spray pattern to a very small spray pattern, which is really good for doing like iron fences and stuff like that with really small pickets. Yep. So you've got a lot more control, of your spray pattern itself with the HVLP gun. And do you think that this gives you a finer finish than an airless sprayer?
I do think it gives you a finer finish. You can probably achieve a pretty decent finish, but you're going to end up with kind of an eggshelly looking look, basically, with an airless. The HVLP, I reduce the product we use. I reduce about 25% with lacquer thinner, and when I do that, I'm able to put it down. I'm going to use a lot less because with this, I'm going to use maybe 8 ounces worth of lacquer total. With an airless, you're going to have to use a lot more in order just to get it loaded up. You lose some trying to clean it out, and it creates a lot more dust.
Yeah, and if you don't know the difference between an airless sprayer, when it's pumping paint and you're spraying the gun, it's complete paint coming out. It's 100% paint. There's no air. That's why they call it airless. It's completely drawn up the paint and it's spraying paint. You can spray a lot of paint very fast with an airless sprayer. An HVLP system mixes air with paint, right, John?
It does. So with this PPS system, it actually there's a liner in there that it squeezes, and that's what helps push this lacquer up to the tip, and then it uses air to atomize that lacquer as it's coming out the tip. Even typically with a pot or a remote pot on your gun, then you're just using air instead of a liner. You're filling that cup with air and sending that up through a siphon to the tip.
So why not just use the HVLP system to spray all the trim in your house and spray all the walls in your house?
Well, I suppose you could use it to spray all the trim and all of the walls in your house, but now we're talking about production and some quality things with that too. You know, you're gonna have to refill this a lot, or even if you have a transfer pump, it's just, that's not what it was made for. This is, we heard it put to us once that the airless sprayer is like your roller if you're doing big surfaces or big wide areas, whereas this is more like a fine touch-up brush where you can use it to do finer, smaller, detailed pieces.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent explanation right there. So we got 3 more things we want to discuss when it comes to cabinets, and I know a lot of people ask, we're wearing gloves. John, you're wearing black gloves. These are just disposable gloves, Raven, powder-free, nitrile gloves. Why do you wear gloves?
Well, the big thing is just I like having soft hands. But it's really, it is just a preference thing. I know there's a lot of guys, I mean, I would never work with lacquers without gloves because you do absorb those chemicals through your skin, and that's not good for you, that's not good for your liver or your long-term health. And so I always use nitrile gloves anytime I'm working on anything on an interior for the most part, but especially with lacquers and chemicals.
Yep, I don't like getting paint thinner on my hands, lacquer on my hands, and then I don't like to have to spend the time cleaning them off. It's easier just to throw away the gloves. People do ask about the respirators. When we're spraying lacquers, we're always using the charcoal, the organic vapor filters. These are the 3M 6001 filters right here, and I do see people all the time on Instagram, YouTube and stuff wearing their filters without the pre-filters, which I do think is kind of interesting. The pre-filters are really, really inexpensive. They do help your filters last longer. And I think you got the charcoal filter. When you're spraying lacquers, can you even smell anything using those?
No. You know, if I'm stuck inside a booth for a decent amount of time, you may start to get some of that, but it definitely, like for what we're doing here, and the majority of the time I don't smell anything. I feel well protected. I know I have a beard, and I know it's not going to seal perfectly.
Shave, John.
I know.
And we were spraying with the PPS system, and we use different systems. We use a remote cup, we use the regular pot, and this system, the PPS system, it's kind of a newer type of technology, and it makes it so you can spray your gun upside down, which is really good. But then for smaller projects, why do you like the PPS system, John, for smaller projects?
For a smaller project like this, where I've got multiple products that I'm going to be putting through the gun, it is much easier for me just to have these disposable liners. They're about 30 cents a piece, I think. I can fill them up, I can empty them out and toss them when I'm done, and all I have to do is pour a little bit of thinner through the housing here in the tip, and it'll clear it out. And it is way faster to clean, and I use way less lacquer when I'm cleaning this. Especially a small project like this, I'm not going to be refilling this a ton or reusing a lot of this product, and so it just makes it a lot faster and a lot easier for me in the long run.
And one more thing we'll talk about is our ventilation system. We just have 2 box fans. This is a laundry room. The door's right behind you right there. We got 1 box fan at the door, 1 at the end right here. And while we're spraying, it just pushes everything out really fast. And I know I've had people ask in the past, isn't that like an explosion hazard? Is there a possibility for that, John?
I mean, I'm not ever going to say there's not a possibility, because we don't want to get sued, but there's always, I guess, the potential for that. I don't think so. When we've talked to lacquer reps in the past, nobody's ever had a problem with that, with having halogen lights in your spray booth, anything like that. So obviously you do want to watch your temperatures. You do want to make sure that you do have ventilation, so you're not just creating a big cloud of lacquer where you can have a problem. And that's part of the reason we do ventilate things, is because you do want to get that out, and you want to get things airing out.
Makes it a lot easier to breathe, makes your filters last longer, and it's worked for us because we're still here.
Yeah,
we haven't blown
exploded.
up. So, but with that said, I mean, you need to do the research with that, what fans you're using. You know, what we're using could be completely different with what you're using, and using lacquers, there's always a hazard with using lacquers of, you know, explosions, fire, stuff like that. So just because we're telling you what we do, I mean, you've got to do the research yourself to make sure it's completely safe, a safe environment for you. So what I'm saying is, don't do what we do. Well, there you go. There's some of the tips and tricks, and hopefully we've answered some of the questions about how we go about painting cabinets and the process. If you have more questions or comments, all you got to do is leave them in the comment section below. We would love to hear it. If you've got any tips or tricks yourself, anything different, how you paint cabinets or achieve really good results with cabinets, leave them in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving us a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to our channel. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter. Instagram and Facebook, we're always doing live shows, giving away cool tools and products, so check us out there. We're live on YouTube every Monday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on YouTube. And we do have a website right here, theidahopainter.com, where we sell our paint life gear, our tools and accessories we use, and typically in all the videos, all the tools we're using, we have them available in our tool store or in the video description. All you gotta do is check out the video description of our videos to find the tools and accessories we like and what we use and stock in our van. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and once again, we'll see you on our next video. Out.